So today I want to have a conversation with the youth minister I've known for a little bit. Well, before he was youth minister. So John, a couple weeks back, matter of fact, let's back up because let's make this really, really like
Right,
clear for
right.
people. A few weeks back, I know we came in and I did something with you, ministry team, etc. But I've known John since he was a teen.
Yeah,
And actually, you guys, if you've ever seen the Lift My Hands music video, the bully
yeah.
is now reformed.
It's funny how things just go around in circles. So
Right. So, but I want to add this. The way I found out that you were full-time youth minister, actually, I was running a college age retreat.
yes, yeah,
So back this past June, and I actually played the Lift My Hands video. And what happened was some, I want to say teens because they're like 18,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like they're college students,
Yeah, yeah.
were there all weekend. And when this is like the last session I'm with them, they're like, hey, that's my youth freak. And I'm like, wait a minute, huh? And then I saw you at the mass and we had started a conversation.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's probably like a long intro, but I don't know
Yeah,
something you want to say. Just,
no.
yeah.
It's just so funny because and it's funny because even when I got there, like there was someone that like knew me from Mount Carmel.
Mm.
It's like, but before I was when I was just like volunteering as a catechist, they were like, "You're John, right? Like from Mount Carmel," and I was like. Mount Carmel, like sorry, like I'm not from around this area,
Oh, you think it was like
Mount Carmel over there, yeah. And they're like, no, like from the Bronx, like with Jesus. And I was like, oh yeah, like I'm not, I was taking this now. So it was just so funny.
Yeah. So okay. So let's actually take people through the journey for context.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that's been on my heart is I've been doing youth ministry. This is how. Okay. This is how long. Just to give that context that I've been doing youth ministry. I know sometimes people see me and they're like, "Oh yeah, you man." I've had parents being like, "Oh, I'm not sending my kids to youth group because there's no adults there." And I'm like,
Yeah.
But no, but the this is how long I've been doing it. That like I was able to collaborate with Jesus, administer to you as a teen, and now I get to work alongside you. And I met college age students that were connected to you. So I think let's take people through your journey. I think a little bit from starting as a youth group team to where you are now.
Yeah, I mean, so like I've been involved within youth ministry for 7 years. When I first started just being partnered with Jesus and just like working on his team, um, which was back in like 2015, 2016, something like that. And so like I just kept on staying in, with them. And then back in like 2019, I believe, going into 2020, Brandon, there was a shift in like the youth ministry team, right? And so like Brandon Fernandez, he came to Mount Carmel and he became the new youth minister there. And so like he just brought connections to like Cartersville's ministries and just like Justin Fatika and stuff. So then we went to an event and again, like just out of a whim, like I became a missionary, not for the full year, unfortunately.
I didn't know you weren't there for a full year.
Yeah, I wasn't there for a full year, unfortunately. I had to come back, for family reasons, and so I came back, but I was there for about 4 to 5 months, something like that. And then afterwards, like I just kept on doing ministry up until 2022 with Brandon, and by that point, I already had experience, just like working within the city and then working, alongside him, just not voluntarily. And so, that's when he came up and he was like, hey, like, I really want you to like, step up and, become my assistant. Right. And so he came, we went to retreat, and then Darwin, just out of nowhere, he just kept on saying like, hi, John, like, I really like you. I don't know why I like you, but I really like you. And I didn't know the guy. He didn't have teeth back then. He had the teeth.
Sorry, dog. Man, my man to put you on blast. The toothless.
Nah.
I like you.
Nah, Darwin did this thing, like this trick where like he could like take off his false teeth, so he would do that often just to mess with people. And so it was really funny. But I was just like, man, like this guy, like he's just like I didn't, in my head, it wasn't like Darwin bothered me. It was more like, what does he mean, like, that he's going to get me on his team? Like, I'm, whatever. Long story short, um, I had a meeting with Darwin with the intention of going and like declining his offer to come to St. Peter. And as I was going to say no, like the words just came out of my mouth. And I really do think that was like a God moment where it was just like in my heart I didn't want to leave Mount Carmel. Like in my head I wasn't gonna leave, but just like it's just that thing where it's just like God is controlling your life. You know what I mean? And not in the sense of like he gives you no free will. It's in the sense of like I know what's good for you, my son.
Right.
You know what I mean? So and I've been in Darwin's assistant for about 2 years, and I just recently stepped into like the youth director role of like having overseeing catechetical things and then overseeing the youth ministry as well.
Right. So let's recap real fast. I think for people, right? So, and I would love to get this moment too, because you started as a teen, just attending youth group. Your youth minister asked you to assist and be a part of that team.
Yeah.
He transitioned on. New youth minister came in. You became the assistant.
Yeah.
Right. You wound up working with Heart of Sales Ministry for a little bit. Was that before or after the assistant thing? I don't remember.
That was technically after because I was just like with Brandon all the time. You know what I mean? With Brandon Fernandez all the time. So like I became the president of our youth group, and then I transitioned off to.
Gotcha. So it's okay. So then then you come back. You're there. Then you're serving there. Then you're assistant here. Yes. And then you skipped this part. You also go and minister at another parish.
Oh yes, yeah. You're right. Yeah. So I was when I came back, I was still like the assistant for Darwin, but someone from New Rochelle like reached out to me. It's this program called Relig. They reached out to me. They're like, hey, like we're in need of youth minister. Like, do you think like you could come and talk to us? So I went, and so I was maybe for about a year actually. I was with Religion in New Rochelle. So I was taking care of. At that time, there was 3 different parishes because it was like Holy Family, St. Peter's, and what was the other one? St. Gabriel's. So it was 3 different parishes, and that was a journey.
Well, can we speak to that? Just because I think one of the reasons why I've started creating these kind of things is I think there's a few layers to stuff. Number one, youth ministry, and we talked about this when we were here. First of all, adolescence as a concept in history is another thing. Youth ministry is newer than that. But I'm going to add the added layer of, as Catholic laity, our participation in the life of the church, and particularly having these roles, is also new. Now, it's not new, I think, for some people who are like, man, it's been around for this many years. But like in the history of our church for 2,000 years, that's this little. Yeah. So I think there's still so many people, like even speaking to my own mom, my grandparents, they have no concept.
Yeah.
And so this is part to give a little bit of visual to that, and then give a little bit of that storyline. So the craziness of bouncing back between parishes, and I mean, I've been in that place before. Multiple doing part-time roles and multiple things. Yeah. Then I'm also trying to lead retreats or doing things for a little extra to survive. I mean, even a little piece of my time there at Mount Carmel was when we had the Mount Carmel Teen Project, which was the gang prevention program, which was funded by Catholic Charities. So there's also like kind of the nonprofit work. So your hands are in everything.
Yeah. So it was honestly it was definitely like not for nothing. It was a little like I was getting burnt out. You know what I mean? Like jumping from place to place. But it all comes down to like just wanting to help, you know what I mean? And it's funny that you say that you just bring back, like the family thing, because it's like when I was first even just mentioning it to my parents, like let alone like the hardest nail stuff, like the missionary stuff, right? Where they were just like, yeah, you're just gonna go waste your time. But even now, like now they're still like starting to get it a little bit more. But when I first came to them, I was like, hey, like there's this person, they reached out to me and they wanted me to like work for the church, just being an assistant. Why are you gonna do that? Like you're not gonna date like that well, and it's that stuff. It's just like, but now it's funny though because like I guess and I always say this like I never want to be, or not that I never want to be, but like I never want to give myself credit for like the transformation that's going on in my parents' lives, but like I know that through me they got married, through me like, and so like now you fast forward to now where like my parents are like, yo, how's work, like how's the kids, because they've come to this parish before and they've seen what I do, like I take back what I said, like you do an amazing work, and I will be able to do that. And now that like now my dad's a sacristan. And
Wow.
it's just like,
Wow.
dude, like you were just telling me, so it's
Yeah.
just so beautiful.
But I think that says something about again, there's like youth ministry, there's family ministries, intergenerational ministry. I'm just throwing some terms out there for people, right? And I think because of just history and how things have played out, how we've engaged people on these various levels. And in one sense, I say youth ministry is new, but it has been around for a while in the sense of Catholic schools have been around for a while. In the sense of CYO programs and like religious ed programs, catechesis, right? But in this more formalized, more missionary mindset, and more relational aspect of things, I think that's really what we're saying. Yeah. And how that's affected you, the kids you're with, now your own family, and how that's kind of played out. Yeah.
So it's definitely been it's been a blessing, dude. The other day actually, like so every Saturday, like so I'm supposed to have just today off, but like even my like it's just so funny how it even affects my little brother, right? Where he's just like, yeah, like can we go to work, right? So can we go to the office? And I'm like, dude, like that's the last place I want to go to on Saturday. But it's just so nice to have that.
Right. So in transition, again, we a couple of weeks ago, we came together. I know you're trying to like, you're newer in this role. You've been here for a few months now, like full time at least,
full time,
right? And you're building up your leaders and your team. And what are some things, either if you want to talk back to that moment, the thing that we had, or just in general, since then or before then, things that you're seeing like, okay, as I'm settling into this ministry role, these are the things that are working well. These are the things I'm seeing how to adapt. These are things I have questions about. Wow. And we'll just let that open reign. How that's all going.
Man, it's such a loaded question because it's like my mind is just going through a bunch of million different things. I think even just before taking this role, right, it's just circle back to just the assistant position, right, and just youth ministry in general. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think that like, and this is to no offense of anyone, right? But I feel like youth ministry for a while has been talked down upon it in a way where it's just like, yeah, you just guys have some crazy kids, meeting on a Thursday or on a Friday night. Like, like what are you guys really doing? I mean, you guys aren't accomplishing anything. And it goes back to what you said, right? Where it's just like, it's always been so structured for the most part, and it's never been like, again, the part of like the relational ministry of just like really getting to the heart of it, right?
So let me give words to that. The programmatic aspect.
Yes.
So again, if we're talking about school, catechesis, and all of that, but the relationship with the person and bringing them into a deeper relationship with Christ, His church, the sacraments, but you as the youth minister being the person in the gap to start those parts. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So because that's been like very new, like in that sense, it's like it's also comes with a lot of hurdles, right? And so like even in youth ministry, like when we first started, like, and it kind of sucks to an extent, right? But it's just like, and like everything matters when it comes to perception, right? And so I think that that's one of the biggest hurdles that I've had so far. And now going back into like me stepping into this role, this director role, where it's just like if I'm being honest, right, like I would love to be in some jeans right now. I would love to just have a t-shirt on and just And it's funny because the secretary today, like as you heard, like man, it's Friday, like I just it's a chill day today. You know what I mean? But unfortunately, like the reality of it is that like John, you're 23 years old, right? Unfortunately, like you're running a program, and parents are gonna look at you. Right, and this happened, not to like badger the parents that came up to me last week, but last week, like I was running late. You know, I woke up late, my fault, right? But I was running late to class, so I threw some jeans on, a sweater on, and it was a Led by Mercy sweater. Like it was a nice like Catholic sweater, right? But it was still some jeans, and my pandas on, and I went to class, and I had to come to youth group, to run it, like to oversee it that night. So when I come, like parents don't want to talk to me, and the first thing is like, yeah, can I talk to the director? I was like, oh, I'm Henry. He's like, you're the director? I was like, hey, like, I'm sorry, like, I normally dress better, like, yeah, I just came back from class, like, oh, that makes so much sense. No, it's okay.
Well, okay, so let's talk about it, right? Because
Yeah.
I've been the guy, that's gotten in trouble, and even now, like, so because I went through that phase where I felt like I had to put on the shoes and I had to put on the tie and I had to do those things, and I think there's two parts to it, at least for me. I can't speak for anyone else, but I can speak for myself. One, it felt inauthentic to me. And two, I think because it was inauthentic to the teens, and it created a barrier between me and them. And one of the things that I had to do, and I've taken a lot of hits on the chin on the forefront of this, is I'm going to dress how I normally dress. I'm going to culturally relevant for me and for them. Because my first primary evangelization of who I'm going after is them. And so if I'm inauthentic to me, it creates a barrier between them and then. Now, is there a time and place? Like, am I going to show up to Easter Vigil Mass with a Doomer on? Nah. But on a general, more and more day-to-day basis, you're going to see me in sweats and kicks and a hoodie and that type of thing. And I still had that issue where parents came and they're like, oh, you're in charge. And I'm like, yeah. And again, I can be articulate and I'm going to make sure I presented well. But I think it's a misconception of what we think one church should be and who we think God is, right? Because when we're talking about relational ministry, we're talking about God was incarnate, right? So he took on flesh. He came into a particular culture, a particular group of people, and he lived like them, talked like them, walked with them in every way. Now, was there some level of excellence? I mean, I'm sure there's some arguments I've heard for the dress about even when Jesus is crucified and they cast lots for his clothing. Okay, granted, yes. But I think if you're going to go further than that, he talked like the people of his time. Even the references of the stories and parables he used were those references. And so for us, there might be movies, there might be YouTube videos, there might be all kinds of things. And so I'm kind of talking around a lot of it, but I think if we are going to be a bridge to Jesus who became incarnate, then we need to also kind of be incarnational in our ministry to them.
And then it's great that you bring that up too, because I'm doing this this meeting every Wednesday 7 a.m. with this priest and these other people, and so one of the things that we just talked about the priesthood, right? And one of the things that was brought up actually was just just the different ministries that priests do, like going to see the sick, celebrating mass, and then we got to incarceration, right? And when priests go and just visit prisoners and celebrate mass with them and stuff like that. And the question was if you could be a priest, right? What's one thing, if you could choose, that you would really want to focus on? And everyone was like, oh, I would love to celebrate mass. I would love to do this. And no one was saying incarcerated.
Imprisonment.
Ministry, the prison ministry. And it wasn't, and it's no offense to them either, right? But as soon as I heard prison ministry, it just pulled on my heart, you know what I mean? And then, the priest was like, oh, how come, John, right? And I was just like, listen, man, let's be real, right? They're at a place where, no one's looking for them, right? No one's looking for them. And I think that, me, being a kid from the Bronx, no one was looking for me. You know what I mean? And that's the biggest story.
Yo, all right, so let's use words for that. Because, all right, so when we met, and I did something for you guys, we talked about youth ministry as a whole, and we zoned in on the mission territory. And there is language used. We use this word, the peripheries. So literally from the bishops, they say that we want to seek young people that are on the peripheries, in the outskirts, right? aka the ones they can look at,
yeah, exactly,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
and I think sometimes, not that programs aren't good, not that structure isn't good, not that those are needed,
Yeah.
but if we lose the focus of the end goal is the peripheries, then we just become a little club,
Yeah,
a little country club of
yeah.
perfectly fit people
Yeah.
that, oh yeah, we earn God's grace because we dress nice and talk right,
right.
in language. When it should be, no, I'm undeserving, and all of us are, and that's why we need Christ, and we need the sacraments, and we need the scriptures, and we need prayer, and all of that.
No, yeah, and even the priest is like, you know what, John, like, I never, if I could be honest, like, you're right, like, the first time that I ever went to go be, to celebrate Mass at, out of prison, like, I was scared, right, and I didn't want to be there, because at the end of the day, like, I know that security guard is not there for me, right, and then the beauty of it is, as I was celebrating Mass, like, in my heart, I realized my biggest flaw, and I realized, like, at the end of the day, like, they're here for the exact same reason I'm here. To celebrate Jesus. You know what I mean? Now, circling back to, like, just, like, the way that I'm dressed or whatever, like, at first, and that was my fear, right, where it's just, like, John, like, like, normally, like, this is not you, right? Now it's becoming more like, yeah, I like dressing up a little bit, right? But, before it was just, like, man, I want to put some sweats on, I want to be comfortable, right? And then I thought about that, right, where it's just, like, damn, like, it's really an ultimatum, because it's, like, are you going to choose the parents, or are you going to choose the kids, right? And I was just, like, stuck in this thing, right? And again, like, that's another hurdle that has to, be dealt with in ministry. But funny enough, and again, like, and this just speaks to the power of just, like, how ministry is so different depending on where you go, with not just within the diocese, right? But just, like, hey, like, the way that, ministry is here, or the kids are here, is very different from the kids, down the block, or whatever the case may be. And, like, what works here, just speaking to St. Peter's, like, the kids look at me, and, like, not for nothing, like, now I get called out when I am dressed, like, a little bit more formally. They're like, and the kids are just like, damn, dude, like, I didn't know you had candles on. I didn't know, like, you like this. But it also creates that, like, that moment where it's just like, John is human too. You know what I mean? And I think that, like, what's again, like, what's worked here is that, like, when the kids do see like, me, like, dress up or whatever, they're also, like, receptive to that in a weird way. And I guess because it's also, like, I don't have a grown man face. I have a little big face, so it's just like, damn, Joel, you look good today. I was like, thank you, man. Like, it's a nice suit, whatever. But it also, like, it's helped me in the sense, like, create I don't want to say, like, serious moments, but it's like, for example, like, when I know that someone needs to be reached out to, right? I'm able to create that space where it's just like, this person's here to help me, right? And that's how it's worked for me. And again, like, that's just one of the hurdles. I think the other hurdle, and I think that this is more speaking to, like, just a ministry everywhere. It's like, yo, it's lonely. You know what I mean? Like, and that's unfortunately, like, and it's not even the fact that, like, you just focus on ministry in, like, this little island. It's not even about that, right? It's more like, at the end of the day, like, it's really hard to know. Like, I have a beautiful team, amazing team, but they've said it themselves too, where it's just like, yeah, like, we're never gonna know what you have to do, right?
Right.
And then that's when, like, other youth ministers come in, to talks, and it's just like, listen, man, like, I know exactly what you're going through, because I'm going through the same thing.
So it's creating community within that, and I think there's a few layers of even, like, the brain rank you just had right there, right? So let's speak to that first. I think the community aspect and the support, and I'm gonna just throw this out there because it's gonna connect us back to some areas have, especially if you look at this nationally, have better support systems than others do.
Yeah.
Because ministry has had some time in developing, and even materials and things like that are there for it. I'll say that one of the reasons why I'm doing this is because when I look at our urban areas, when I look at the Northeast specifically, when I look at minority communities, there's a lack of resources, community, etc. So that's one. But that pulls me back to what you said about the difference between different parishes and communities. That's the purpose of understanding your mission territory. It's understanding, and we talked a little bit about some strategic ways of how to actually evaluate that over time. Like, hey, where are the schools in our area? Oh, where are kids hanging out? What is the ethnic makeup? What is the cultural? What is the social economic? And how those influence the culture, even artistically, how that's influencing. So in somewhere where like particularly here in this context, they see you with the shirt, you know what I'm saying, slacks, and it's not threatening to them. That's fine. There are other communities
that
where,
were
I mean, and I've been, honestly, not only have I been in them, but I also was one of those kids where it's like, as soon as I saw someone in the tie, it actually made me not respect them. It made me turn off. And I think we need to be intentional about how we're going about it.
And it's good that you bring that up, because I actually, like, I was talking to my team about this, right? And because they're just like being asked to serve that at other parishes, like for retreat, right? And let's use Mount Carmel for example, right? And I told them, I was like, yo, like 100% go for it. You guys should go serve. Remember, you're not home. Right? Remember, you're not home. And so, like, the way that these kids are going to be receptive, yo, you need to show up, right? Whereas as here, it's just like, and it's funny because like about a couple weeks ago, like I went to go serve. I was a Victoria at one of Mount Carmel's retreats. I wasn't dressed like this. You know what I mean? Like, and it wasn't because like, oh, John's, not quote unquote working, so like he's gonna be. No, I know how the kids over there are receptive. You know what I mean? If I go in there, like you said, they're gonna say, you're so ingenuine, like you're so just this genuine, like. But it's not even about that. It's like, yo, you have to know how to get to your crowd, like, you know what I mean? And it's just that I think that the reason why it's not done here is because like we're also we have the school tied to us, right? So like on a regular day basis, like the St. Peter's School, like you go there and they're just like me, right? So the kids that we get from there, like in this upcoming March, like we have a school retreat with them, so like they're used to like having this, but it's also like the way that we speak, right? Like we were referring to that, where it's like the way that I speak to a parent is not gonna be the way that I speak to a kid. So when I'm giving a talk, right, they're like, oh wait, his clothes doesn't matter. Like he gets it.
Well, the words we use in the more professional sphere is code switching, right?
Right.
And there is a level of that, but there's a way of doing it. And this takes practice, and this takes time of knowing how to do it without being inauthentic.
Right.
So it's like, again, I can be articulate, and I can use the great grand words of our church in order to explain the transubstantiation and the hypostatic union. I can do that. Or I could be like, bruh, God wants to be with you. And like, you can simplify the language or do. But so, yeah, I think it takes training and practice to be able to do that in different spaces. Yeah.
And again, like the kids are gonna know. You know what I mean? The kids are gonna know. Yeah. So it's just like it's been very, very beautiful to like and I just think back to like and again, like this is more like just my ministry here. Like I think back to, our Edge program that we have, and like when I'm giving, talk, I'm not gonna start off with saying, like the history of the church or anything like that. Even just last week, the way that I talk about, the whole point was sacrifice, right? And so like, how are you gonna tell a middle schooler, hey, we need a sacrifice, right? Like, and the way that I started is like, yo, like. I don't know if you guys could tell, but like I really love food. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then these kids are lacking or whatever, and then I'd go into the seriousness of it, where it's just like, yo, I had to go to the doctors, blah blah blah, and I had some kids saying, you haven't been to the doctor in 3 years. I was like, yo, let me talk about it. Let's talk about it. And so like just having that like being genuine in that sense, like you said, Coach, like knowing how to do that. It does take a lot of work, and again, another struggle of ministry, just knowing that like you really just like it all comes down to just being honest. You know what I mean? Like not being afraid of life, and this is hard, right? Like not being afraid of failing in whatever aspect there is. Like so, I think that's yeah.
Right, and so this is another thing that I realized we're doing this normally without even like this just hit me a second ago. Is so this the strategies and book and everything I'm developing is the 5 N's of ministry. we were talking about the mission territory and how that's relevant, but we're also talking about the message and how we convey the gospel message effectively in a way that resonates with them. It makes it stick and it doesn't go over their heads, right? Because we have a lot of like churchy Lego, and the church has been really good. I mean, for 2,000 years in explaining we had all these people with priests and bishops and saints and everybody that they explain different things, but being able to take that knowledge and then apply it, or your local context, one by the cultural relevancy which we're talking about, but then also understanding the messaging. One of the things that the way in which our messages are programmed, right? Or our art of storytelling, our usage of how we engage people. Like you said about, I'm gonna talk about food. Like I'm gonna find a relatable point. Whether it's again, some of it is storytelling, some of it is just maybe you make a reference to a show they know or a song they know, right? And you use that. Like the example I always like to think of when I think about that stuff, two of them come to mind immediately is one, when St. Patrick uses the three leaf olive to explain the Trinity, and also Our Lady of Guadalupe, who literally in her dress wanted to tell these people something about God that they could understand in their own culture. Um, and how do we do that in America? How do we do that particularly in what I said before, urban context? And I'm saying minority context, that can be different, whether it's Hispanic, Black, Filipino, and Indian, whatever. Yeah. Just being mindful of those little cultural nuances to convey the message.
No, 100%. And I think like even speaking of that, something that just popped up in my head as well. It's just like I think that like again, no offense to people that take it this way, right? But like I think that within the church as well, like I have a position of power, you should respect me, right? Where it's just like, no, man, like if you want to get to people's hearts, like you're not gonna demand like God could have easily said, "Yo, I'm God. You got to do what I say," right? And it wasn't like that. It's like, no, I'm gonna go to where you're at. You know what I mean? And like really like I think and something that we got going on here, like just a joke that we has, like, to be loved is to be understood, right? If I could understand you, I could more like easily convey the love of Christ for you. You know what I mean? So like, there's that as well. That's just like man, the message is important. The people that you go to is important, but it's also like, do you even understand what you're doing?
So can I back up for a second? Because what you said there about there's a thing, if you ever wanted to do some research, called the consequence of the glory. And so it basically, in where we are culturally now, the result is when you have authority and you don't honor that authority well, the result is the people who you have the authority over lose trust in the body. Okay? Where we are culturally now, you want to say America, if you want to say the Western culture, if you want to just say moderate river, because so many authorities had dishonored that role, and we can go down the list of history of political figures, of religious figures, even on families and the broken homes that many people are coming from. The knee-jerk reaction actually is, I don't trust you because you're in authority. And so that's where I think even relational ministry comes in even more so, where you're stepping into their world and it's like, no, I'm doing ministry alongside of thee. Yeah. Right? Like we talked about this when I was here before about how in renewing the vision, they talk about the road to Emmaus story as being one of our models and guides, like our primary model and guide of how we should do ministry, meeting people on the road where they're walking away from truth and answering their questions and hearing their concerns, and honestly just side by side like this. It's even the community aspect you were talking about before, doing that with our teens, but it is also doing it with our parents and also doing it with our other authority pieces, whether that be the priests or DREs or diocesan workers or whoever.
And like to bring back a little bit, like to just going back to like the relational aspect of it, right? I was having a conversation well, I was asked to serve at a retreat, by my team. Right, they always formally like ask people to serve, right?
Yeah.
Because they know that the personal invitation is very important, right?
Right.
And so like as they were asking to serve, one that I felt Brandon actually was just like, and I think that this speaks volumes to how we should be doing things, right? And that's like going back to the Jenny thing. They were like, I think that the reason why he was just saying that I think that the reason why the kids are so receptive to see is because you're not Kirk.
Mm. Yo, that's big. No, that's big. And I think that like that needs to be said multiple times. Because it's not I'm perfect. Is that I've met the perfect person, Christ, and I need to get you back in. I think about specifically, I think about the reason why we even have Peter. Ironically, where I say Peter. Right? The reason why we have Peter is because of his brother.
Yeah.
His brother said, yo, I think I found him. I got him. And our imperfection in us, them seeing. So sometimes it's not the most polished sermon, but it is that real authenticity of like, hey, I'm walking along and journeying with you. The word we use is accompaniment.
Accompaniment,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that like within the church, like we're so scared to fail. You know what I mean? We're so scared to fail, and it's just like, dude, how are you gonna sit here and like talk to a kid at when their image of you is perfection, right? And that goes back to like them being scared because it's just like, and I was having this conversation with one of my youth servers where they were just like, John, like I didn't want to disappoint you. I didn't want to tell you that I have enough match or whatever the case may be, and it's just like, no, dude, like that's like, and this is gonna be a little like what's it called? I forgot the word of it, but I was like, no, it's fine in the sense of like, I don't like the fact that you didn't have a match, right? But I understand why you didn't go. You have so much going on in your life that it's hard to really like see Christ within your own life sometimes, right? But you have to bring them back to that, and it's just like, and again, like just like if you're gonna be standing up there give you sermon, then like being perfection, like knowing well that you're not, like people are gonna see that, and you need to be, be okay with saying like I need Christ too, right? So it's that.
Yeah, I mean, so what what came to mind, one is the woman caught in adultery, right? It's not excusing the behavior,
Yeah.
but it's empathizing with and stepping down and hearing out. Again, it goes back to the accompaniment thing, but like, okay, cool. What can I do to help you get back on track? Do you need me? Do you need some type of extra call or wake up or some type of reminder? Is there, do you want to meet? Why don't we meet for breakfast before?
Right.
Let's do I used to do this thing, called Mob at McDonald's, and it was outside. It was outside of like it was like during the week after school. Like we'll just meet at the local McDonald's, and hey, bring a friend that may not come to youth group yet, but we'll just meet at McDonald's and talk and chill, right? And like that can help build some bridges. But I've also heard in someone who I care about is kind of taking over things has been doing. I'll meet you at mass. The youth ministers, I'm gonna go with you to mass, and let's go out to eat afterwards with a group of 5 kids or whoever like that is. So it becomes that more accompaniment thing like that.
I think like, and I don't know if you remember this, but even when we were playing basketball, you know what I mean. This is like a way back where it's just like, it starts off where it's just like, it was just, or the inner circle that we met, Stairs, whatever, Jason, all that, right? But then it grew into like so many other people. Like, all right, like if you want to come, you're gonna have to pray. If you want to come, you're gonna have to like come out
Right.
about that. And like, again, just meeting where they're at, like, yeah.
So yeah, we've been going on, and I love the little side tangents. I love the little side tangents this conversation has gone through, and we named a few of them, right? Like I think understanding our mission shares or understanding our messaging, um, understanding the relational aspect of accompaniment. But are there any other things that you think are like there are some challenges and difficulties? We also talked about the communal aspect of creating that, right? But yeah, like just in evaluating and growing in the.
I think one of the biggest things is, and I think that a lot of people get caught up in this, and that's like forgetting peace, right?
Mm.
And that's in the sense of like, okay, like I'm serving, and so like in a way like serving is work, right? And so like in work you also need to take a break, right? And like where are you getting fed?
Mm.
So we're busy like emptying ourselves out until we're empty, literally, right? And it's like no, like you should be receiving so much that you're pouring out all that extra, right?
Right.
And so I think that that's and even now, like when I started like really working, like just as an assistant, like knowing that like, damn, like I need to grow my career life. Like if I'm gonna be just doing ministry, like I don't have enough to just serve. Like I need more, right? And seeking that
Yeah.
more.
So there's an image I've used with teams before where um sometimes we're like in just like a cup, right? And it's like, okay, I run to Jesus, I fill my cup up, then I pour it out into other people. And I run back and fill it up and pour it out. I think a more effective way is I stay in the presence of Jesus and I keep allowing it until that overflow is happening to everyone around me. And you can't help but catching a little bit of this grace by being around me, because I'm making sure, whether that's my daily prayer routine or wherever that is. Um, Obviously, mass, Bible, scripture readings, spiritual direction when you have the opportunity. I know that's difficult for a lot of people. Therapy where we need it.
Yeah.
Health, like all.
Everything.
So mental, psychological, spiritual, making sure
Everything's
that
connected.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, everything's connected. And like, and it was funny because again, like when I came back from Cactus, not so long ago, like my whole like after opening up to my team, like, oh, like this is what's happening. They're like, the first instance was like, John, you can't eat this, you can't eat this. I was like, wait, hold on, like let me catch a breather, right? But there's the reality is like, John, like if you want to be there for the kids, like you got to be there for yourself.
Okay, I'm gonna say something controversial.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say something that's just, hey, this is something I wish our priests knew better. Because there's too many of them that have not taken care of their physical health, and I think it affects their psychological, their spiritual, and even the way in which they minister. And I think that we as lay people can do a better job maybe helping them. The same way your team was helping them. I know of a few people that are like starting to understand like, fitness and ministry, and they can have assistance with that. But yeah, I think we as lay people, and let me also add this. Okay, let me add this. Unfortunately, also, many of the lay people who are working in the church are not men. They are women. So I think as lay men, setting that example and then also helping our clergy in that, I think. So yeah. Sorry, I'm not trying to make fun of y'all priests. I'm just saying, like, I think you would be more effective if you had that on your
No,
side.
and it's and it's also going back to like in a way like again just going back to like the power thing, right? Of just like I have a job to do, so I need to do it. Like, and it doesn't matter if I'm burnt out or if like I'm on empty. I need to do it. Like, no, you also need to take a pause, right? And I think that like you said, a lot of priests they're just so busy with different parishes, right? And it's also it comes down to like we don't have enough priests, right? So then like, but what are lay people like lay men doing? Or even just like seminaries as well, like brothers, like what are you doing to really like, again, no offense to that, right? But like, what are you guys doing to like make your presence known? You know what I mean? Like, I think one of the beautiful things that Mount Como has, right, is that they had a Jesuit with them, and they would switch out, whatever. But me, just having that presence, I'm like, yo, wait, maybe I would become a brother, right? Maybe I want to go to the seminary, and even here, like, you see the difference when the priest like comes when our prayerful victor comes, and he just finishes off with Hannah Blackman, for the East side, it's just like, oh Father, like like let me talk you, and it's such a beautiful thing, but like all of that you can't do if you're bringing God.
Well, yeah, there's a healthy presence of our surges, right? Because I've also been in situations where they're not around, and it's like, man, I want to bring him to the sacrament, but I don't have anybody there, right? So, it's a kind of hopscotch in between game of finding the balance between all of that. But I think knowing what we said laymen, but just in general,
Yeah.
other laity stepping up. So that's another M that we unfortunately said. So if y'all don't know the five M's, it's the message, the music, the members, the meeting space, and the mission territory. So we've talked about the message in some ways. We talked about the mission territory. We've now kind of went to the members,
Yeah.
right? Which is our clergy as well as our lay ministers, as well as just lay volunteers, etc. And figuring out how to do that a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's funny how
It's all connected. So everybody knows, like, this is not something like all these years I just reflected back and reverse engineered, like, where have been the places where, man, I wish it was better here, or I realized it was really good here, and I'm realizing if these five elements are in play, and maybe you're better in one than the other, you can be intentional about increasing one or the other. You can move your ministry forward.
No, 100%. And I think that it even comes to that aspect of just like knowing what your team needs, right? Just like as a youth minister, as a director that I am now, like knowing that, like, okay, like I know my team needs more work in like public speaking, right? Or like I know my team needs more resources, or whatever the case may be. Like knowing, again, like just looking in and seeing your flaws, just within your parish. It's like we have so much going on, right? Like but no, like again, just being able to like internally look and say like, what do I need, right? Like, and the other part of it is like not being ashamed to ask for help. You know what I mean? And that's the biggest thing. Like, I think that like even me inviting you, right, where it's just like, okay, I know I can't give this talk. I know I can't get the point across of like this is where we need to work on, right? But it's just like you being able to come that weekend and just say like, all right, like these are the 5 points, and like you guys might be doing good in these, but this one needs work, right? And they were receptive to that too, where it's just like, oh wait, yeah, we got to talk about the members, like we got to talk about and so, it comes down to also like wanting to help, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Any final thoughts? We went a little bit longer than I expected we could do, but we could do this all day. I'm just yeah, I mean, any other final thoughts just from you?
I think the only thing that I could really like come up with is just like, and not even come up with, I honestly that's in my heart, is just like with all the obstacles with everything, just not just within ministry, but just within your faith, you know what I mean? It's like, and it's just funny, it always gets brought up, right? It's the Jubilee year of hope, right? Like never losing that, right? And then I think that like oftentimes, and if you were to ask, just my friends, the secretary or whatever, like they're always like, John's always talking about quitting, right? And then we have that joke of like, yeah, I'm done, I'm quitting, right? But there's the reality of it is just like, who are you going to as a source, right?
Amen.
Like if your hope is genuinely within God, like you could do this forever until He tells you to stop. Right. And that's the biggest point. It's just like, just because it's hard doesn't mean you can't do it.
Right.
And it all comes down to He's got you. So just remembering that, I guess. For me, at least, I think that's something that I needed to hear.
Right. And actually, I mean, shameless plug. Hey, if y'all want to look at the book, it's funny because there's what I call the sixth M, and there's actually 3 6 M's. I won't name here. There's the 5 M's. But if you do the 5 M's, they will, one, be supported by this 6th M. Again, it's 3. But one of them is the Messiah. It's not losing the focus of Jesus in the process of our whole thing. So, thanks, Sean. I mean, I definitely got to do stuff more. I know we've talked about doing some more stuff as a team. But if you guys want to check out and look at the website, bethesimple.com, get on the email stuff and talk about either the book or just doing some more of this stuff. We're trying to create a community around how we could do ministry a little bit better together. So, yeah. Thank you, bro. Peace, y'all.